What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a movie that I hope a lot of people go and check out, and that movie is called Sing Sing. Directed by Kwedar, who wrote this film alongside Clint Bentley, John Divine G. Whitfield, and Clarence Maclin. This film stars people like Colman Domingo, Clarence Maclin, Sean San Jose, Paul Raci, and more. So Sing Sing, this is a movie I was really excited to check out just because of the really positive word of mouth that I had been hearing about this film. It premiered at the tail end of 2023 at a film festival, and over the course of the beginning part of 2024 has been appearing in a bunch of film festivals and has a really high score on Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd. I know that Colman Domingo was the main star of the film, but I knew nothing else going into it other than the fact that a lot of people were saying it was one of the better films of the year and that you had to check it out. Which was kind of also a shame to hear that you have this movie that has such great word of mouth, but it's getting a wildly limited theatrical release and not really going to be hitting a whole lot of markets, unfortunately. And it's coming from A24. With them releasing films all the time, you would have thought a film like this with so much talk would have gotten a bigger push, but it's a film I actually hadn't even seen the trailer for before I even going in to see this movie. I knew about it, I could have sought out the trailer, but it was never a movie that the trailer was put in front of me. And more often than not, if I can avoid a trailer unless it's something I'm like super interested in or a franchise I'm already kind of invested in, a lot of times I like to go into some of these lesser known or smaller films that are getting good buzz without having seen the trailer. Of course, for the sake of this review, I will be talking about the base premise of the film, but I don't think that takes away from what this movie is all about. And I can start this off by saying that I think that this is a really powerful film that will likely be in the conversation when we get to Oscar season at the beginning of next year. I can see this being nominated for things like Best Direction, maybe even Best Screenplay, and I can see this being definitely nominated when it comes down to Colman Domingo's lead performance in this film. He's a fantastic actor and definitely showcased a lot of fantastic performances last year in 2023 and was definitely in the conversation for a lot of award contention himself and was somebody people assumed would be a part of the conversation. And I think once again here in 2024, he is setting himself up here with this film for a very, very, very strong conversation around him being one of the better actors and giving one of the better performances of 2024. So the movie takes place at a prison called Sing Sing and focuses on Colman Domingo's character, John Divine G. Whitfield, who is actually one of the writers of this film, and he is actually the true life person that is behind the story here, and focuses on a group at the prison known as the RTA, Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And essentially this group of prisoners get together and they do plays for the other prisoners at the prison. They put on a show for everybody, and they put all their time and effort into acting and getting into wardrobe and putting all their passion into this project to try to find a sense of community and work together and use the arts, use performance to find a new happiness in life and kind of a release, something that they can kind of put their emotions into and work towards rehabilitation. And over the course of years, if you look into RTA, as I did a little bit before filming this because I wasn't super familiar with it, it seems it's been a great path for a lot of prisoners to kind of work their way through prison and maybe sometimes getting out of prison a little bit early and being able to kind of, you know, work on themselves, work on their emotions, manage their emotions through RTA. And I think that's an incredible thing. And I think right out of the gate, that this is a movie that's going to have divisive opinions because there are going to be some people that instantly don't want to watch a film about prisoners who committed crimes, who are, you know, playing make-believe and having fun and doing something to kind of rehabilitate themselves. There is a percentage of people who think that if you did a crime and you're in prison, that's it, that's where you should be. And I've always been of the mindset that, you know, you can have people who did horrible things, and sure, plenty of them deserve to be there. They all deserve to be there, of course. If they did that terrible thing, they all deserve to pay it with their time and to kind of have to sit in it, you know. But I also believe that there are plenty of people who have made horrible choices out of fear, out of desperation, out of sadness, when they were super young, or they were around the wrong crowd, made the wrong decisions, whatever the case may be, and over the course of years of being in prison, deserve the opportunity of a second chance, or deserve the path to redemption, or a way to rehabilitate themselves, a way to learn to manage the things that got them in prison to begin with. And I think that this film does an incredible job of tackling that. And something that's really impactful right out of the gate with this film as well is that most of the cast, outside of Colman Domingo and a few others, is actually made up of actual RTA members from various prisons who they actually show footage of, who did some of the various sketches and various plays that we see play out in this film. And so they got to act in this film as the real versions of who they are, showcasing what it was like to do this in prison. And they do an incredible job. I would have thought they were completely trained theatrical actors, and it goes to show that they were able to really hone this craft in that time in RTA. And so you have Colman Domingo at the head of this movie as this playwright who is incredibly passionate about the arts. He's incredibly passionate about acting and about kind of developing all of the skills of these individual people who are part of the RTA, of trying to find other people to pull in to the RTA to continue to grow this group and find the best in some of these individuals that a lot of people would look at as the worst of society. And I think that Colman Domingo does an incredible job of playing this role. And the man himself, Divine G, I mean, you got to give him props. I mean, he clearly had a heart of gold despite being in a tough situation and being a prisoner himself. And I think that Colman Domingo does an incredible job in this film of really being able to balance that emotion of being this character who has a lot of pain and a lot of suffering in his own life, but ultimately as well, it tries to utilize that to uplift others and to find the beauty in the darkness. And I think that this film on an overall does a good job of capturing that across all of these characters. While this film has a lot of big moments with performance and all of these characters, you know, giving performance and being dressed up and, you know, trying to have fun with what they're doing, there are charming moments, there are funny moments. The film is also very quiet and it has a lot of great character moments that really take time to really showcase people, to show human people. And I love that this film allowed us to see the humanity of people who made horrible choices that led them to prison. They deserve to be there in so many ways, but it doesn't mean that they can't become human again, that they can't find that humanity in them, that they can't recognize and find guilt within them and want to change. And I think that this movie tackles that really well. And outside of that element, I think the film also tackles some interesting things about the judicial system, because while I think that we can all kind of maybe feel comfortable in the fact that there is a lot of, you know, crime out there that has kind of been put to an end because the judicial system has helped us get certain individuals into prison, it's unfortunately also incredibly true that there are so many people that are in prison that don't deserve to be, whether they, you know, didn't have, you know, the right evidence and they ended up being falsely accused, or there's individuals who, you know, got in there for the smallest of things that they don't deserve to be there for, or it was just wrong place, wrong time. There are so many different facets and so many different issues that have happened in the world that have led to people being in prison. Again, many of them rightfully so, and sometimes some people get wrongfully imprisoned. And this film tackles that as well, and how sometimes those individuals end up getting screwed even more so by the judicial system. So it tackles a lot of things in this film, while at the center of it and with the heart of it really being about this troop of individuals who all have darkness in their past, and despite being in this world where they've allowed themselves to no longer be a part of reality, they use this group, they use the arts, they use performance to find and create their own realities, to do what they can to uplift one another, to support one another, and create their own happiness, to create their own realities and their own existence that means something not only to themselves but to each other. And I think that that's just such a great and powerful message in a film that tackles heavy themes and deals with a really dark world, you know, something that all of us who are out here and have our freedoms maybe take for granted. And the reality is, again, there are so many people that are behind bars that deserve a second chance, that are working towards that second chance and deserve to be given the opportunity to have that second chance. And I understand it's a touchy subject for a lot of people, but that's just my outlook on it. And I think that this film tackled it well. It tackled the heavy elements. It tackled the lighthearted elements, and it was also able to be charming and funny and was really well acted across the board, not only by Colman Domingo, but the supporting cast here is incredible. You also have people like Clarence Maclin, who actually plays himself. He's one of the writers for this film as well, and he does an incredible job here. He gives a performance that's, you know, showcases the hardened nature of the individuals here. Somebody who is pulled into this troop and doesn't necessarily want to lean into the goofy, doesn't want to necessarily allow himself to be vulnerable, but over the course of time working with these individuals who support him, who uplift him and show him love, is able to kind of blossom a little bit. And it just goes to show how that support system, that love that we give one another, our friends, our family, whoever, those kind of things that you do can be the things that help move that person away from the decisions that lead them to something like prison. Outside of them, you also have people like Paul Raci in here, who plays the director of this group. He kind of works alongside them. He's not a prisoner, but he believes in this troop and he wants to help them, and he wants to utilize this rehabilitation through the arts to help uplift them as much as he possibly can. And he works alongside Colman Domingo's character a lot throughout the course of the film, who is the central crux of the film and the character you can feel for the most. And overall, again, I just don't want to sound overly redundant, but I was just so impressed by how much this film was able to capture a very realistic depiction of a very sad situation while keeping it charming, while having heart, while having elements that were hilarious and cute and fun to watch, but also was able to take it down a notch. Now, when it comes down to any negatives that I may have on this film, I will say that there are a few moments that I felt were a little slow, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think if you're into slower paced films that take their time with characters, there are going to be a lot of moments in this film that you're really going to enjoy. This isn't a film I could see myself revisiting on a consistent basis, so it doesn't necessarily have that strong rewatchability for me, but it's certainly a film I can see myself thinking about for weeks and months to come, and I can easily see this being one of my favorite films when we get to the later part of the year. Outside of the great performances and the heavy themes and the narrative and how it's able to tug on a lot of things, I was also really impressed when it came down to the sound design for this film, as well as the cinematography. There's so many great moments of lighting and just the overall aesthetic of this film that allows you to feel claustrophobic with these characters while also allowing you to kind of feel a sense of community. And I think that not only is that kind of brought on by the cast themselves, but the cinematography and the atmosphere given off by this film and the direction of this film oftentimes very much lent itself to feeling that great sense, again, of claustrophobia, but also sense of community with these characters. And by the time the movie got to the end, while you don't feel like you get a full story on who these characters are, this isn't something that's really looking to develop all of them, you get a really great shot and picture of a life like they're living. You get a great shot and picture of, you know, people who are just trying to work on themselves, who made horrible decisions that they can't take back. And now all they can do is work to try to be better and to try to use their passions and their creativity to better themselves and better those around them. And that's something that I'm always going to be able to relate with. I will always open my heart to the ability for us to rehabilitate ourselves, to grow ourselves, to change who we once were. I think we can all recognize, maybe not on the same serious level of going to prison, but I think we can all recognize things we regret doing, you know, maybe things that we got away with, maybe things that you didn't get away with, maybe things that hurt other people, maybe things that kind of had you shunned for a period of time from a certain set of groups or of friends or whatever the case may be. I think we can all look back on things like that in our lives and realize that we grew from those things, and it's all about the support system you have around you and the things that you put your heart into that are going to help kind of revitalize your humanity and revitalize who you are. So anyway, guys, don't want to sit here and ramble too long, but I hope you guys enjoy this movie if you go and check it out. I think Sing Sing, whether you love it or not, whether it's one of your favorites of the year or not, is certainly a film that's worth watching, and it has a worthwhile message and great performances in the film. I think with Colman Domingo being the standout here, obviously, and being the one that I think is going to be discussed a lot as we get into award season in the later part of the year. So that's going to be my thoughts on Sing Sing. Very much worth checking out, and I'm very excited to hear all of your guys' opinions on the film. Are you looking to check this movie out? Are you not going to check the movie out? Have you already checked it out? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below in the comment section. Hit that like button, subscribe for more movie reviews just like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.